Ottawa hits back, signaling a dramatic escalation in the ongoing battle for dominance in the North American auto industry. The Canadian government, long a key player in the continent's automotive landscape, is now taking decisive action to protect its interests and workforce. In a move that has sent shockwaves through the industry, Stellantis and General Motors, two automotive giants with deep roots in Canada, are now facing tough new import restrictions. These companies, which have historically relied on the Canadian market for significant sales, must now navigate a far more challenging regulatory environment. The Canadian government is imposing strict limits on the number of American-made vehicles from Stellantis and GM that can enter Canada without incurring heavy penalties. Customs officers are ramping up inspections at border checkpoints, ensuring that only vehicles meeting the new criteria are allowed through. This is not just a symbolic gesture, it's a concrete policy shift with real economic consequences. This bold move is a direct response to recent decisions by these automakers to shift significant portions of their production from Canadian plants to facilities in the United States and Mexico. By relocating jobs and manufacturing capacity, these companies have put thousands of Canadian workers at risk, sparking outrage among labor unions and local communities. For years, Canadian auto workers have watched as their jobs slowly disappeared, factories closed, and communities suffered. Now the government is making it clear, Canada will no longer stand by and watch its manufacturing base erode. Protests and demonstrations have erupted across the country, with workers demanding action to protect their livelihoods. The message from Ottawa is unmistakable. If automakers want access to the lucrative Canadian market, they must show a real commitment to local production. Cars proudly bearing the Made in Canada label are being celebrated as symbols of national pride and economic resilience. This aggressive stance is setting a new, confrontational tone in trade negotiations with both the United States and multinational corporations. Government spokespersons are making it clear that Canada is prepared to defend its interests, even if it means risking tensions with key trading partners. Automakers are now being forced to reconsider their entire import and production strategies. The threat of steep tariffs and restricted market access is prompting urgent boardroom discussions and last-minute strategy sessions. Companies must decide whether to invest more in Canadian manufacturing or face the financial consequences. As the dust settles, one thing is clear: Ottawa is ready for whatever fallout may come. The government stands firm in its defense of Canadian jobs, industry, and economic sovereignty, determined to ensure that the future of auto manufacturing in Canada remains bright and secure. The roots of the current trade conflict can be traced back to the actions of Stellantis, one of the world's largest automakers, which has a significant presence in Canada. For decades, Stellantis has operated major manufacturing facilities in the country, providing thousands of well-paying jobs and supporting local economies. However, recent decisions by the company have sent shockwaves through the Canadian auto sector. Alongside Stellantis, General Motors, another automotive giant, has also made the controversial choice to shift production away from Canada. These moves have left assembly lines empty or operating at reduced capacity, and have forced many skilled workers to leave their jobs, sparking anxiety in communities that have long depended on the auto industry for their livelihoods. Specifically, Stellantis is relocating its iconic muscle car production, including models like the Dodge Charger and Challenger, from its Ontario plant to facilities in the United States. This transition puts hundreds of Canadian jobs at risk and threatens the economic stability of entire towns built around these factories. Local businesses that rely on the plant's workforce are also feeling the impact. General Motors is following a similar path, having already partially closed its historic Oshawa plant. The company is now relocating key vehicle production to the US and Mexico, further reducing its Canadian footprint. This has led to widespread concern about the future of auto manufacturing in Canada, as more jobs and investments shift south of the border. These decisions by Stellantis and GM are seen by many as part of a broader pattern of disinvestment from Canada's auto sector. Once bustling factories now sit idle, and the ripple effects are being felt throughout entire communities, from empty parking lots to struggling local businesses. The Canadian government, led by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, views these corporate moves as a breach of trust, especially after Ottawa invested billions of taxpayer dollars to support and modernize these companies' Canadian operations. Government officials have expressed frustration, arguing that these investments were made in good faith to secure jobs and ensure the long-term health of the industry in Canada. In response, the government has adopted a much more aggressive trade stance, signaling its willingness to defend Canadian jobs and economic stability. This includes exploring new trade measures, engaging in tough negotiations with automakers, and supporting workers and communities affected by these decisions. The showdown between Ottawa and the auto giants is about more than just cars. It's about the future of Canadian manufacturing and the livelihoods of thousands of families. Ottawa's recent policy decision has significant implications for the automotive industry, particularly affecting major players like Stellantis and GM. The government has decided to revoke the previously granted tariff exemptions for these automakers. This move is part of a broader strategy to encourage local production and strengthen the domestic manufacturing sector. By linking market access directly to local production capabilities, Ottawa aims to ensure that more vehicles are manufactured within Canadian borders, thereby boosting the local economy and preserving jobs. The policy effectively ties market access to the level of production that occurs locally. This means that automakers must now consider the benefits of producing vehicles in Canada to maintain their market presence without incurring additional costs. The strategy is designed to incentivize companies to invest in Canadian facilities and workforce, thereby fostering a more robust and self-sufficient automotive industry. Under the terms of the Canada-United States-Mexico Agreement, or CUSMA, vehicles that meet specific rules of origin can be traded across borders without tariffs. This agreement is crucial for maintaining competitive trade relations between the countries. However, the new policy changes the landscape by imposing stricter conditions on what qualifies for tariff-free status, thereby encouraging more production within Canada. Despite the provisions of CUSMA, Canada has decided to uphold a 25% tariff on vehicles that do not meet the new criteria. This significant tariff acts as a deterrent for importing vehicles that are not produced locally, thereby encouraging automakers to rethink their production and import strategies. In the past, automakers like Stellantis and GM enjoyed exemptions that allowed them to import vehicles without facing tariffs, provided they maintained a certain level of production within Canada. These exemptions were crucial for their business models, allowing them to balance production across North America while still accessing the Canadian market. However, with a noticeable shift in production to facilities in the United States and Mexico, these exemptions have been revoked. The move is a response to the changing dynamics of the automotive industry and aims to bring production back to Canada, ensuring that the local industry remains competitive and sustainable. The imposition of a 25% tariff significantly increases the cost of importing vehicles into Canada. This added expense forces automakers to reconsider their import strategies and evaluate the economic viability of their current production models. The increased costs could lead to higher prices for consumers or a shift in production strategies to mitigate the financial impact. Ultimately, this policy is designed to pressure companies into building more facilities in Canada, making the import of vehicles less economically viable. By encouraging local production, the government hopes to create a more resilient automotive sector that can withstand global economic shifts and maintain its competitive edge in the international market. The government's decision gains strong support from auto worker unions like Unifor. Unions see tariffs as a tool for corporate accountability and job protection. Government officials defend the policy as essential for Canadian interests. Critics, like the Automotive Parts Manufacturers Association, worry about potential U.S. retaliation. Automakers voice concerns about vehicle affordability and market competitiveness. The policy challenges global production decisions, aiming to protect Canadian jobs. The policy impacts the Canadian economy, where the auto sector is crucial. For every assembly line job, multiple related jobs are created. The government's move aims to stop economic decline and incentivize local production. The strategy is vital for communities in Ontario's automotive belt. Ottawa's stance signals a fight for Canada's place in the EV revolution. Risks include deterring international investment and sparking a subsidy war. The government's stance reflects public anxiety about Canada's auto industry. A recent poll shows 70% of Canadians worry about the sector's future. Many support using trade measures to protect local jobs. The narrative of fairness drives public sentiment, expecting government action. The auto sector's struggles symbolize broader economic challenges. Defending the industry is seen as defending Canada's economic identity. The policy creates uncertainty for Canadian consumers, with potential price hikes. Unions argue it's a necessary step to protect jobs and the economy. For workers, it's a hopeful sign of government support. The decision marks a shift towards strategic industrial policy. Canada asserts its right to defend national interests, even if it causes friction. The outcome will shape the future of the North American auto industry and Canada's global economic role.